Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Ryan, the official host of Askreddit Tells, and today we are going to be looking at some of the top stories from r/MaliciousCompliance. Before we do, though, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to stay up to date on all the latest videos. Health Inspector shows me how to clean the slicer correctly. I used to work part-time at a sandwich shop during college about 9 to 10 years ago. The shop had a high turnover rate and I was there the longest, so I basically learned everything in the store. One day we had a health inspector come in to evaluate the food safety temperature readings, food storage, etc. I had to slice the tomatoes for night shift, and the inspector took issue with the dirty slicer and asked if I had been cleaned. First I said yes. He asked if I used the scrubby thingy. I forgot what it's called. It's like a wire scrub on a stick. I said no, you don't put your fingers near the blades, you just spray it off and dunk it in sanitizer. He chastised me, so I was like, okay, show me how to clean it properly. If there was a way to do it right without getting hurt, then I was willing to learn. My coworker and I stood there and watched him jam the wire scrub between the blades and pull it back. And of course it got stuck. He shoved it forward again, jamming his knuckles into the blades. He started bleeding everywhere. My coworker had to shut himself up in the walk-in freezer. He was laughing his ass off. I just looked at my manager trying to help this idiot inspector get a towel and whatnot and said, yeah, I'm not cleaning the slicer like that. History teacher says we can get missing assignments waived at the end of the term if we score well on the final. Challenge accepted. This was many years ago when I was in high school, but it's still one of my proudest academic coups. Backstory, I was a gifted kid in an IB program. I also had undiagnosed ADHD and tested well, but didn't consistently complete homework, especially if it was busy work. I'm in IB history class my sophomore year. We get assigned pages upon pages of reading and notes for homework every night, and the notes are the most tedious BS I've ever seen. There's a really specific format we have to use that involves splitting the page in half. Writing a fact from one text on one side, a couple of sentences of analysis of the fact on the other, and 2 to 3 sentences summarizing everything you've written at the bottom of the page. We also had quotas for how many pages of notes we had to do. I don't remember the exact ratio, but it never hit it like I was supposed to. A 40-page reading needed 20 pages of notes. They took forever. They were often not actually enough key facts to analyze, and everyone BS'd the F out of them to hit their page count. They were also the first thing on the chopping block if we had too much homework, which we always did, and we would get graded down for not hitting quota and not following format of poor quality content. Everyone hated them with a passion, especially me. Our teacher got sick of people BSing their notes, bitching about their notes, or just not turning them in at all, which happened more often than not. So she announced at the beginning of a new term that anyone who missed a notes assignment would get an incomplete instead of a 0. So it wouldn't affect your grade, and if you did well on the final, any missing assignments would be waived. But if we didn't do well, they would become 0s and our grade would drop. She intended this just to be temporary grace for the good students so they could afford to miss an assignment here and there and not ruin their GPA. But she was not prepared for the unintended consequences I was about to inflict. This announcement was absolute music to my ears, you see. Not only were our notes busy work, but they were pointless busy work, because all the material from reading would just be covered on the PowerPoint in class the next day. So I would always just pay attention and take notes in class. Only do some of my homework, ace the final because I still learned the material, and because homework was only 35% of the overall grade, I'd still usually scrape a B in the class, which was fine by me, so naturally when I hear we don't have to do notes, I accept the F out of that challenge. I decided right then and there that I would be doing no history homework for the entire term, and basked in my newfound liberation from hours of bullshit. About halfway through the term, my teacher comes up to me and the conversation goes something like this. Ginger, I noticed you haven't turned in any notes at all this year. I'm kinda concerned about that. Well, you said if we did well on the final, we would get our notes waived. Well, yeah, but if you don't do well, you're going to lose a huge chunk of your grade. Okay, and? You should really turn in some notes so that doesn't happen. It's okay, I'm good. Are you seriously planning on, like, just not doing any notes all term? Yep, because they'll be waived anyway when I do well on the final. Okay, well don't blame me when your grade goes down. Yeah, can I get back to work now? I proceeded to stick to my word and not do any note assignments all term. Final comes around, it's our typical format, 120 minutes to write 2 essays chosen from 3 prompts. I could have crushed any of them, but I picked the 2 easiest for me and got writing finished. The first one about Columbus's problematic historiography, my apologies, and realized it only filled 1 piece of notebook paper front and back, single-spaced. But I had said everything I needed to fulfill the prompt. Cool, on to the next one. Don't remember the topic, but it too was clear and concise, taking up only a sheet and a half. I was the first one done. Not unusual for me, I often hyper-focused on essay tests. And walked up to turn it in. Teacher thought I had a question, I informed her I was done. Her eyebrows shot through the roof. She asked if I was sure. I said yes, left class, went and enjoyed my early lunch. It's next week and we get our graded finals back. She stiffly marches up to my desk and slams my test paper down. The longer essay got a 98. The page 1 about Columbus got a 100. She muttered something sarcastic about, "Well, I guess that little gamble paid off for you, huh?" "Yep, just like I said it would," says I. She was fuming as she walked away. She had been so hoping to catch me in a big-ass gotcha, but as it was, I ended up getting the highest score in the class. She had to waive every single notes assignment, and I ended up with an A for the term. I'd also just like to add those notes they're talking about. If you guys are curious to know what they look like, I'm pretty sure they're Cornell notes. Look them up. Cornell. Assistant from hell. Let me preface this by saying I'm still going through some mental issues because of what happened in this story. Background. I was born with cataracts, and that later became glaucoma when I turned 5. After some years, something happened that caused me to lose all vision in my left eye, and that meant that I needed an assistant for the rest of my education. Now that you're all informed, the story. When I was starting in middle school, my parents found an assistant to help me with moving around my school. I'll call her Ella for simplicity's sake. Anyway, Ella friendly to me and my parents, so they didn't have a worry. Ella did her job and she was very friendly with me. And then it began. One day, Ella didn't come to school. She called my dad saying that she got in an accident on the road. It was fine, she got in an accident and it wasn't her fault. I spent the first 2 weeks of trying my damnedest to explain why I couldn't write the work and give a convincing argument, and walk around without bumping into every wall and person. On top of that, Ella became more and more hostile as the months went by. She then began telling me awful things about my appearance, my personality, and she even talked shit about my parents to other teachers who were just as scummy as her. The only reason why I didn't say anything was because she made me think what she was doing was so she would not get me expelled. Me being a stupid 13-year-old, I believed her. Needless to say, I was miserable. The straw that broke the camel's back was the day where she was so angry that she slapped me. I was done. The revenge. I told my dad about everything. The absences, the slander, everything. When I told him, he went absolutely apeshit and we went straight to the principal. After telling her everything that happened, we found out that Ella was present to write herself up as present, but never arrived to help me. We also found out that she faked most of her reasons for absence. After a long investigation that took 2 years to actually prove, we took Ella to court. I only had to testify every single detail of what she did and what she said. Long story short, we won that case and Ella went to prison for 3 years. After word got out of what Ella did, my family had heard that her friends and family basically disowned her. She also lost the remaining custody of her kids, which went directly to her ex-husband, who works as a vendor that passes by my school. Ella became forgotten garbage. It's been almost a whole year since Ella went to prison, but I sometimes still hear all the terrible things she's said thanks to her. I'm scared to make decisions because I can't get her words out of my mind. I'm gonna start school soon, maybe I'll finally get that demon woman out of my head. Edit. Thank you for all the kind words. Honestly, I thought this was going to get ignored. At the time of writing this, I was going to start my 2nd year of high school. I'm just happy that even strangers on the internet are willing to say such nice things. Thank you all for the support. Edit 2.0. Oh my god, thank you for the silver. I've noticed some comments confused about my condition. I'll clarify. To be perfectly honest, I don't really know about how it happened. I don't remember since it was a long time, at least for me. After Ella stopped being nice is when I started seriously learning how to use a cane for blind people. And that brings us to the end of today's r/MaliciousCompliance. Did you like it? Maybe check out some of our other videos and even subscribe. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host of Askreddit Tells, and I look forward to seeing you guys in tomorrow's video.